In today's episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Vicky Weber. This was a really fun interview and all inspiring because she says, why not? Why not write the book that's inside of you? She is now a children's author, a literary agent, and the founder of At Home Author. She helps other aspiring authors, writers create the book, publish, and market it, all with less overwhelm. And how does she do this? By teaching them how to use Systeme.io while also helping them figure out the process of publishing. No matter the route, traditional or self publishing, she helps them do that while utilizing the Systeme.io platform itself. Automations, emails, courses, memberships, coaching, mentoring, all of it with a simplified system that just works. So Systeme.io has been key to her scaling her courses, her platform, and her environment to help her elevate and help her students succeed in this industry. So without further ado, let's bring on Vicky. Hi, everyone. Today I'm sitting down with the author Vicky Weber, but we're not only going to talk about books and literature for children today, we're going to talk about how she's actually helping other people also embrace their dream of becoming an author with athomeauthor.com. Hi, Vicky. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Gotta say, again, I looked at all your material. I'm excited to dive into today's success interview and learn more about your journey from a teacher to an author and now helping other people also realize their dream to be a writer.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that I love talking about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. But I do think that in general, more people don't realize how possible their dreams can be if you just have the right tools and the right support system to make it happen.
I love that you mentioned tools and support system. It's not just one or the other. You really help people go from knowledge, information, acquisition to implementation. But before we dive into the tools and the support network that you provide, can you give us a short synopsis of like where you were before System.io? Like what were you doing? Teaching, music education, to now what you're doing with System.io.
Yeah, I started so now I'm in the publishing industry full time. And so that was not the case before. I was an elementary school teacher and I first got published, mostly children's picture books, while I was still in the classroom teaching. And eventually, I was successful at it, and I had so many people asking me, "How do I do this too?" That was when I formed At Home Author. I started that back in 2021, and I really brought my teaching expertise to the publishing industry because there are a lot of resources out there. There was a lot of information out there, but most of it was geared towards novelists. And so I wanted to teach other people to do exactly what I've been doing. And not everybody who's a course creator is also a teacher or has a teaching background. So it was super important for me to look at how do I make this as easy as possible? How do I make this as accessible as possible, as simple as possible? Because you can overcomplicate anything, right? But if you know how to break it down into something that's bite sized and easy to digest, anybody can be successful. So that was when I launched my website. We started off with Wix, and for a long time I ended up using so many different tools. It I like to lovingly describe it as like playing 52 card pickup with with tools and information and things, and it was really frustrating because whenever something broke, I'm like, "Okay, did it break here or did it break here? Did it break on this end?
Cool.
Like was it the connectivity from Zapier to insert whatever tool?" But it also got really
Mhm.
expensive really fast using so many different tools and interconnecting them, that eventually I had a colleague uh, share a referral link for Systeme.io, and I'd never heard of Systeme.io at that point. And I did like the free. Um, it wasn't a free trial; it was the free tier. And I was like,
Hmm.
all right, I'm just gonna see what this has. And I was completely blown away. I was like, wait, I don't have to have my course in a different place and my email list in a different place and my sales funnels in a different place. I can have them all in the same place. So that was when I started a migration over. And it's
Hmm.
been several years now, with all of that arm of my company being under System.io's umbrella. And it's been such a time saver. Like it's
Oh.
really easy and efficient. And so one of the things I talk about with my clients now with building their websites and their email lists and their things, um, is System.io and all of the things it can do for authors, because there's lots of options out there, but there's very few
Hmm.
that are one-stop shop the way this is.
Yeah. As a one-stop shop, as a, sole provider or author running a one woman or one man show, it really does help you save time, save money, and just put everything all in one basket. So I'm going to jump back. How long were you a teacher at elementary age?
I taught for 6 years before I left the industry. And part of that was COVID related. And
Mhm.
part of it was I got pregnant with my daughter, who was my firstborn, during that same time. And so I very quickly realized that I could not be the mom I wanted to be if I stayed in teaching. Um,
Yeah.
but I also like to tell people that you can take the teacher out of the classroom, you can't take the teacher out of me. So even though I'm not teaching kids in a classroom the way you would expect, I'm still doing it online. I'm still teaching adults. And on the author side, I still get to do author visits. So I get to go to schools and interact with kids. So I'm still using those tools, and like I'm
Yes.
still tapping into the things that I loved about teaching. It just looks different than I expected.
Yes. Yes, yes. So that's one thing I think a lot of people, who are like, I want to transition, and they don't realize how a lot of the skill set that they learned previously becomes their experience and their expertise to allow them to transition well. Not just transition at all, just well, and implement something on the other end as a teacher. You're teaching adults and children, and but doing it on your time, on your watch, and making probably more money doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
So absolutely, right? So 6 years as a teacher, music education. How many books did you publish before you left, which allowed you the transition into being the at-home author?
Ooh, I think I'd have to do the math to be 100% certain, but I left in April. Well, I had my daughter in April 2021, and I technically left in the summer, because that's when my maternity
Mhm.
leave ended, and so I didn't return from my maternity leave. I think at that point I had 5 or 6 books, under my own
Okay.
name. So,
Okay.
not a huge backlog, but not a small portfolio
Mm-mm.
either. And the interesting thing was at that point, I was making what I would consider very good side money. But it was not enough money for me to be like, yep, taking this leap. This isn't scary at all. But when I did, my first month being a full-time author and actually having the time to put in, that month alone, I made 3 times what I would have in a month as a teacher. And so, yes, it
Wow.
ebbs and flows, and yes, it's a little bit more roller coastery, but it's also something I didn't realize. I was being held back by time. And when
Yeah.
my time is stretched so thin and I'm trying to do so many things, that can impact income just as much as anything else. I just truly didn't realize that until
Yeah.
that moment.
Okay. So, one more question about you being as an author, building up those credentials for this transition to being the teacher for other writers. I'd like to know how those books, the 5 or 6, or, as Vicky Weber, do you have a personal brand, or do you market each book separately as its own brand? Like where do these exist in the ecosystem of digital business?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. So, my first book was actually not very successful because I didn't understand any of the things that you just listed. Um, and if I wanted to, I could go back and I could change a lot of stuff. Um, but I won't because it was more of a personal project. It was a story that was like really personal to my family. And so to this day, that book, it's called Aurora's Orchid, has only sold 60 copies total, period. My other books have sold a lot more than that. um, but it took a while for me to figure out what I was doing. And a big part of that was, how do I brand myself? How do I find what I want to write about? And how do I find the readers that will be as excited about what I'm writing as I am, if not more? Um,
Yeah.
and so after that one kind of personal project book, all of my other titles were really focused on how do I get kids to fall in love with reading? Because
Yeah.
literacy scores are at an all-time low even for adults.
Hmm.
And I was the
Really?
kid who loved reading so much, like if I got a book for a present, that was the best thing in the world. Um
Mhm.
and when I was teaching, I very quickly learned that quite a lot of kids do not feel that way about books at all. So I
Yep.
wanted to really think about, how do I get kids to have as much fun with books as I did? And how do I get kids to um, want to read something again and again, want to bring it to an adult? And I think that that comes down to knowing what kids like, and making books fresh and interactive and really appeal to reluctant readers. So that's kind of the core of my children's literature brand. And now that I'm a
Mhm.
literary agent as well, that's also what I'm looking for in other people's stories that I'm maybe not the best to pen myself. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I would say that's the kind of the core of what I do.
That is awesome. Now, as we transition, I since you figure that out, helping reluctant readers fall in love with reading. I love that. Do you teach the potential writers and authors the same like pedagogy that you have figured out? Or is it more the craft of writing and the publishing and the branding and more of the techie? Or do you help kind of with this brainstorming as well?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things I love about Systeme.io is that it's one-stop shop. And that's really what I've created as an ecosystem for children's book writers. I so a lot of coaching and courses out there only teach traditional publishing or self-publishing. And I teach
Hmm.
both because I've done both. And I have professional experience and success and numbers to back it up for both sides of the industry. And I personally believe that one is not better than the other. It's all just a matter of what is best for that writer, that book, their personality, their budget, their time constraints, all of those things, that the only person that can decide what's best is that author and that
Yeah.
creator. So what I do is one stop shop. We talk craft, we talk all these things, but I don't just teach them, here's how to find my audience. I teach them how to find their audience. And
Mm.
I teach them how to not need me in the future with every book that they write. That's always my goal. Is I'm like, I would love if you came back. I would love to keep working with you, but my goal is for you to not feel like you have to keep working with me.
Yeah.
Um
So, like a
that's it.
teacher, you want them to graduate,
Mhm.
move on.
Yep.
I love it.
I want them to grow. And I actually, I've had 3 students now go on to be the founder of well-known traditional publishing imprints.
What?
Small ones, but
That's awesome.
well-known and reputable traditional publishing imprints. And so like that's the stuff I want to see. I want to see success in the world. I want to see my students um shine and not need me anymore, even though it's a little bit like empty nesting for a parent.
Well, that's how you're going to get repeat clients as well, because that word of mouth marketing is better than any digital brand that you build on Instagram, YouTube, because they're like the secret's in the sauce. She knows what she's doing. Go to her. You will graduate and get your book out there. And then they'll send those people like, how'd you get there? Oh, you need to go to At Home Author, which is all hosted on Systeme.io, most of it. So let's talk about the tools and the support network that you have built using Systeme.io to help these people become, what'd you say, national, what is it? National imprint
Oh,
authors?
traditional imprints.
Traditional imprint authors. I didn't know. Can you explain that term and what that means?
Oh, yeah. So what I mean by they became publishers, like they didn't just get their book published, like they turned into a publisher that publishes other people and a well-known, respected institution. But last I did the math, about 80% of our course members um, who complete our course end up published within a year or two of them completing the course, um, which is really incredible because today's market is so tough. There's a lot
Yeah.
of factors that come into why that may be. And so I'm always looking for how do I adapt my teaching and my coaching with what's going on in the world without compromising what's important to each creator and each author in each book.
Okay. All right. So you're looking at the pedagogy and looking at the best practices and what's more evidence based. So, like going back to your experience as being a teacher and implementing that and then distilling it down to the most important pieces, simplifying it, like
Mhm.
System.io did with website and funnels and emails. So, you mentioned your course. So, we're going to jump in and actually show our screen for the first time, showing your funnel for your course. Does that sound good?
Yeah, absolutely.
In today's episode, we're going to show you an actual funnel kind of build out with Vicky here. This is a link from her website homepage. And so, Vicky, can you share like where your website's built and that transition? I think it actually will be helpful for a lot of people who've perhaps already built their website somewhere else.
Yeah, I currently have our main website, at homeauthor.com, hosted through Wix. But the only reason that we did it that way was because the only piece that System.io did not have until recently was the ability to like book coaching calls and things like that, where there was like a calendar integration or a live link to do some one-on-one coaching or group coaching, things like that. And so I remained on Wix purely for that piece of the business, with every other bit of my of the company operating through System.io. So we use System.io for our sales funnels, for like delivery of our freebies, for email marketing, um, all of our automations, and it's kind of the home base for everything except for live one-on-one coaching. But now that System.io does support that, and also they now have the ability to sell physical products, and so that's something I've been exploring down the line with physical books or merchandise relating to books. So now that that is an option, I am looking at migrating things over.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we're going to look at the funnel first and then kind of dive into some of those as well. So this is a link and it goes straight to your funnel. The picture book program will teach you a step by step how to take your idea and bring it to life. Right here, you have the text. You use the drag and drop and create your graphics, perhaps in like a Canva environment. Like how do you build out your page design wise?
Yeah, so I use quite a bit of the System.io templates, and I just change the colors, or I'll change the background. I also do a lot of building blocks because I find that once I find stylistically something that I like, I don't want to keep needing to rebuild it from scratch. So I
Mm-hmm.
use things like master blocks for things that I know I want the same throughout, like maybe my footer. with my like
Mm,
copyright information and privacy policy and stuff like that. But otherwise, I just create regular blocks and I drop in them like puzzle pieces and then rearrange them, however best suits that sales funnel. Um,
mm-hmm.
as far as my graphics go, I usually
Yeah.
do Canva, or I do also work with illustrators. So sometimes I'll hire them to do some graphic design. And then I just drag and drop right into Systeme.io.
Okay. I love your graph right here, this comparison of the solo versus the guided. So giving not too many options, simplifying it for your ideal client, writer, author. And so right here, these options are available all within Systeme.io. So you have your solo, the DIYers, and then the full access guided. You get your course, printables and templates. So you really help them hit the ground running
Mhm.
with already pre-designed templates to get going.
And then even the things that live outside of System.io, like our Facebook group, the links are all
Mhm,
provided within the course. So it's not like they're, looking in multiple places for all of the information. They
mhm,
have one of the things that you can do that I really, really love is inside a course module, you can put um, an HTML code for your Google Calendar. And so I do that so that they can see, oh, here's when the next coaching call is. And in the Google Calendar, it's got, the Zoom links, but I can also put them on the course page in case there's, technology is lovely. So there's lots of options for it to all live in there really simply in a way that's really user friendly.
Oh wow, I love that. I haven't heard that one either, but sorry. Simplifying the access to all this stuff. Like it doesn't have to be a completely super coded environment. You really about simplify, simplify, simplify. Love this
Smarter, not harder.
confetti. Yeah. Love your confetti back here. So I'm like, oh, okay. Choose your side.
And that's
And then
actually just a that's just a GIF, however you say it. Um,
GIF. Let us know in your comments which one is it, GIF or GIF.
I know, right? I'm like, but I just made this and I dropped that as an image in the background. So like I said, there's no shortage of really cool things that you can do.
Yeah. And then you've got testimonies here, your social proof. Got a little video here embedded. In fact, 82% of your students who complete the course get published. I love that. So y'all can watch that. Keep going down. Let's do this. All of this is built in here. So if we just scroll down, got some books here. Oh, a
Oh, this I
little
love.
drop.
The FAQ is just
Mm-hmm.
so
I love
clean.
it. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, it looks so clean. Amazon. So you help your authors get on Amazon
Hmm.
with their publishing, and for traditional with just like physical books and like Barnes and Noble and
Yeah, so
Walmart and
traditional
those kind of
publishers
places.
are publishers like Scholastic, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, etc. So some of our authors choose to self-publish, others choose to go the traditional publishing route. And so we look
Hmm.
at helping them query agents and polish their submission packages for those opportunities.
Mm. And there's the little girl. I've seen that graphic throughout. Great way to like be able to blend everything in between. You have her as like your avatar.
I use
Is
my
she
own
in any of your books?
yeah, she's one of the characters from one of my picture books, and so I love using my own characters and graphics and things like that to kind of tie it all
Oh, that's
together.
wonderful. All right, so I'm going to click here. We're going to go through your funnel. It's going to take me back to choosing a choice, one or two. And I love, and that was another thing that you said that you have anchor links in here. So if I
Hmm.
click explore the plans, it scrolls down. So using anchor links to send us here. So I want the full package, join guided, boom. And then you got your sales page with a little countdown. Here's what you'll get. All right. Yeah, no tripwire, no upsell. Like you again, very simple. It's this or that.
Hmm. And we have upsells and things like that with our like our freebies. If we've like a free challenge or a free download or something, then we'll add in a tripwire or something extra. But since the course is a membership, I like to keep that really clean and simple, um, just for clarity's sake, since it'll be a recurring fee. Um, so yeah, they they're in the driver's seat. They can choose how long they stick around, whether that's a month, 6 months. We have some students who have stuck around for 2 or 3 years.
And so, with your guided one-to-one mentoring, is that, like you said, the upsell that's inside the course? Like,
Hmm.
do you have to be in the membership course to get the one-on-one with you?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. You gotta be part of the group, the community, and then pull out like a teacher, like doing the pull outs and doing the small groups on the side, helping
exactly.
them. Yeah. Because if they don't have the frameworks that you've built, that foundation, how are you going to give them the one-to-ones? Be like, well, you should use course one. Well, if they don't have access to it, how are they going to do it?
Yeah,
I
and
love
one
that.
thing that because I used to do them more separately, and the problem that I ran into is a lot of authors would just be like, "Ooh, I just need an hour to ask you questions." But the questions would be so big. It would be like, "How do I get published?" And I'm like, "Well, I can't answer that in 1 hour. Like there's too much to go over."
Yeah.
And so I found that just offering one-off things like that and not having it be curriculum based and teacher term scaffolded, um, made for results that authors weren't happy with because they were
Hmm.
missing big pieces of what they needed. Even little things like examples of what something should look like, or ideas for tools. Like if I say, oh, create your own graphics, it's helpful for them to know, use Canva, use a freelancer, use Adobe, use whatever it may be. Um, because then they not only know what the options are, but why I like certain ones or don't like certain ones, what the pros and cons are for each. So when I'm talking about
Hmm.
websites and email lists, uh, Systeme.io always comes up in multiple buckets because it has those same tools. And so that's one of the things that I say is if you're looking for powerful and affordable, um, this is the way to go. And it's ever evolving. There are things that I wish it had a couple years ago that now it does. Like
Hmm.
the FAQ didn't have that when I started with Systeme.io, and now I have it and it's awesome. There are blocks and templates that didn't exist that now exist because they're so committed to how do we continue improving. It's not a here you go, have fun, we're never changing anything. No, they're really looking at
Yeah.
how do we how do we continue to provide
Hmm.
great resources for the people using us.
Yeah. So, same with them, they have the tools, but then a support network. They're listening to their clients, they're listening to the users of their program and continually evolving and being innovated, while also being cognizant that they're speaking to a very targeted market who want affordability. I need simple, I need fast, I need to save my time, because what's the point of all this, right? Like, we want to get the information, distill it as quickly and easily as possible to change lives. And that's what you're doing. And so you mentioned something about using Systeme.io. Do you perhaps have a module or a course inside of your membership where you kind of help them build everything out on Systeme.io as like an affiliate?
Yeah, so we have different tutorials, different like videos with pros and cons. I do use my affiliate link, and of course, I disclose that it's an affiliate link. Um, so yeah, that's something I do pretty regularly because again, those are the things that I wish I had, and I'm a very visual learner. So it's always helpful for me to understand, oh, so that's where that thing is at, or whatever it may be. Even when I get paper instructions for like assembling something I ordered, for some reason the YouTube video is so much easier to follow.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner too. School was very hard for me because I'd be like, listen, I'm like, please write on the board, do something so I can see this played out in front of me. So showing the screen is hopefully something we can do and show people the funnels and how they flow out. So speaking of affiliate marketing and all the things you've built, can you kind of like give us a stack of revenue streams that you've been able to create as an author and now as a literary agent slash author teacher? Like, how has following your dream of entrepreneurship as an author and then teaching other people, like, how has that financial freedom been built? Like, how many streams do you have now?
A lot. No. um,
I know that put you
so
on the spot with that
I know, right? No. My main source of income is still to this day my own books, and the revenue that I get from those, which I think is good because it's kind of the foundation of everything, and I don't want to ever turn into a person who's teaching but not doing, teaching but not
one.
having that lived experience. So that is where the bulk of my income comes from. Um, and then I also have smaller things like affiliate income from like YouTube or Google AdSense, things like that. Um, let's see what else. As a literary agent, I just finally started getting revenue in. The problem with being a literary agent is that if a publisher doesn't pay in advance, um, which not all of them do, then no money will come in for you or that author for 2 to 3 years. Because that's how long it takes for a book to be published. So if you're only making money on royalties, you're only going to make royalties when the book is published. And if it takes 2 to 3 plus years for a book to be published, traditionally you're not going to see that money for a few years. So I'm in year 4 of agenting, so I just have now started getting those checks in. But I also do a lot of presentations, like author visits for schools with my books. I do a lot of training online or conferences. I'll attend and do presentations with just a snippet of what I teach in my full blown courses. um, so yeah, there's a lot of hats. There's a lot of revenue streams happening.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that the financial freedom, one of the biggest things that I am so grateful for is if my kids are sick or, before I we were using daycare, if like daycare was closed, we would have to take a day off of work. And
Mhm.
there's only so many days you get off of work, especially with things like maternity leaves and COVID. And, once one kid is sick, all the other kids get sick, and then the parents get sick. I don't have to worry about that in the slightest. If one of my kids is sick, they are home with me, and I can shift my working hours, or I can skip a day, or work while they nap, and that's the flexibility I have never had before. Um,
Mhm.
there have also been times where I've wanted to do something fun with my kids, like go to an amusement park or go to the zoo, or just, let's go for a walk, let's go play outside. And we can just do that. Um, that's not something I could have done if I stayed in teaching. And so for me, it's really the little things and the ability to be 100% present in whatever I'm choosing to do. um, the ability to follow other passions of mine, and wear a lot of hats. I couldn't do that if I had a full 9 to 5. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's been a lot in the best way.
I think you answered one of my core ending questions of like, what's the gift of entrepreneurship? And you're able to embrace that multi passionate life, be available, and be present with your kids and not worry about, hey, boss, I can't come in today, you know?
Yeah, and I think that can be scary. But scary isn't always a bad thing. I think sometimes we're conditioned to be like, oh, this is too good to be true. Or this is different from something I've ever done, or this is different from something I've never had. But there's a quote, I'm pretty sure it's an anonymous quote. It's, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done.
Mm.
And that
Ooh.
sits with me a lot because, if you do keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same outcomes. So I'm always looking at, if something isn't clicking, isn't working, if I'm not happy with the way something is, I'm like, all right, well, what haven't I tried? What haven't I explored? Um, and that also helps me get feedback and look at things from a perspective of, maybe I'm just not seeing this the way somebody else would. And how can
Mhm.
someone else's thoughts or opinions or feedback help me make this even better than what it is? And that goes for writing, that goes for funnels, that goes for emails, that goes for everything that I could be doing. Um so yeah, I think it is a leap of faith to be an entrepreneur, but if it's something you want to do, you'll find a way. You will make it work, and you just have to be open to the possibilities and
Mhm.
know what you know and know what you don't know.
Well, speaking of doing the unknown and doing something you've never done before, you had mentioned that you grew your email list to, was it 5 digits? I know you got 10,000 followers on YouTube. You've created this dream life now, with the flexibility and presence, being with your family, changing lives. 80% of your students, I don't even know how many students you have. How did you build this empire, in a sense, even though I know it's not an empire, a legacy, a teaching legacy? And how has it, really changed your life, even financially?
It's opened up a lot of doors that I didn't expect it to open, and it's still very weird when I go to a conference, or like when I go to like some event where somebody will know who I am, because I'm not the kind of person that you go to the grocery store and go, oh, I know her, which is a good thing. But if I go to an event, people know who I am. And they're always like, oh, I see you on this, or I've seen you on that, I've read your articles, whatever. It is still so weird. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go crawl in a hole now. It never stops feeling weird, but it also feels so good, to know that the things that you aspired to do and the way that you wanted to reach people is actually happening. Um, and so even though it's weird, it's a good weird. It's like, oh, I am making a difference. I
Yes.
am getting, my words are being read by people. My videos are being watched by people. And so it's really cool. I think one of the biggest things for entrepreneurs and for authors and for creators in general is, the creating the stuff is not usually the hard part. It's finding the people to experience what you're creating. If you're making a course, it's finding the students. If you're writing a book, it's finding the readers. If it's selling a product, it's finding the buyers. And because of that, I'm always encouraging my students to look at, I kind of look at marketing a little bit like being at your house. If I'm at my house and I write a book, and it's an amazing book, and I go set it on my front porch, who knows that it's on my front porch? Me, anybody who lives in my house, probably. Um, maybe the random people that come over to my house during the day, like my in-laws or something. Otherwise, that's it. No one else knows about the book that I put on my porch. And that's what the internet is like. You can put a course out there, you could put a product out there, you could put a book on a digital shelf. But unless you're driving people to it, they will not know that it's there. So if we go back to
Yep.
my porch, if I'm like, all right, how do I get people to know this is here? I might put up lights and a banner and record some videos. and host a parade or live stream something. um like I'm going to try and do things, and suddenly people will start to realize, oh, there's a book on this porch. That's really all it comes down to is when you build something, they're not going to come unless you tell them to come. And so you have to figure
Mhm.
out, who are my people, where do they spend time, how do I reach them, and why will they care about what I've created. If you can master those things, you can start driving the traffic, because there's lots of ways to do that.
Mhm. I love that analogy that, it wasn't just here's the tactical. You gave the why. Like, why are we doing this? How do we attract the awareness the correct way? And bring that awareness around. So, using YouTube or the other social media platforms, ads to create an email list, of over 10,000 people, a YouTube channel. So how has it any other like revenue goals that you were able to hit by being able to lean in completely to this unknown?
um well, at that point, for me, it was just educated guesses. I was like, okay, if I can put in X amount of hours, if I can attract X amount of people, then that would equate to this amount of money, and it'll probably be fine.
Yep.
But the thing is, everything's hypothetical until you pull it off. And so you can have these goalposts, um, but that
Hmm.
doesn't make it any less scary. For me, though, it goes back to the biggest factor was time. You know,
Hmm.
I'm limited to how much I can achieve if I only have an hour a day or an hour a few times a week versus 7 hours, 8 hours a day or more. Um, and that allowed me to, once I hit certain metrics and certain revenue goals, that then allowed me to outsource the stuff I didn't like. Because, for example, social media, I know it's necessary and I will continue to participate in it, but I hate making graphics. It just takes me forever. It's not my strong suit. I have many skills. Drawing is not one of them. Canva's not really one of them. And so that's something that I outsource. I have a social media manager now that helps me with my personal things and with At Home Authors social media content as well. And what would have taken me 3 hours to put together takes them like
Hmm.
30 minutes, if that. And so that time saved is equally as important, if not sometimes more important, because then I can pour that into relationships, and I can pour that into my students, and I can pour that into the things that can't be outsourced. Um, and so that's kind of how I look at it, is how do I keep growing in a way that lets me take take the things I want off my plate and lean more into the stuff that I really enjoy, because that's the stuff that people connect with anyway. People don't connect with me because of a cute little graphic on Instagram. They connect with me because I'm a weirdo on video,
Yep.
and I try to be real and honest and open and make things easy and simple. But I'm also not going to shy away from um, the emotional side of what it's like to be an
Mhm.
entrepreneur and the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
I want others to be transparent with me, and so I do my best to be transparent with them as well.
Mm. I bet your coaching and community is very real, very raw, and that's how you get breakthrough. Is because you're facing the hard things.
Yeah, and I also look at it from a perspective of, we're not just trying to get one book published. Like, we're trying to build up a person. And to build up a
Mhm.
person, we need to be looking beyond this book. Yeah, we want this book to be good, and we will make this book good. That's not a problem. But we're also looking at, like, okay, why are you making the choices that you want to make? What is best for you? What's going to make you happy? Because I have seen people um get published and then say, I wish I hadn't self-published, or
Oh.
I regret the choice that I've made. And it's simply because at the time they just wanted a book to exist. And so they made choices that way. And if you want financial freedom and you want to, be your own boss and be an entrepreneur and have all those things, it's not going to feel different if you're unhappy in that space.
Mhm.
And so you have to
Mhm.
always be considering one step ahead, one step further, beyond this book, beyond this blog post, beyond this course. Um, what do you want beyond the things? Because that's really what people connect with, especially in the age of AI.
Ooh, ooh. Yeah, bringing up AI is huge. So you try to make sure that there's a personal connection, and you do that with at home author. So Vicky, as we kind of like land the plane, you're building out this beautiful platform to fully envelop the person, and like you said, the person, not just an author, not just a writer, but like, why are we doing this? What is the impact? Maybe someone's listening right now and they have a book in their heart, a kid lit, something for children. What would you say to them to get them off the seat and into action to execute?
I tell this story a lot online, um, but I will never stop telling it. My husband is like the king of hobbies. He is a person where if he is has an idea in his head or is like, "Ooh, that sounds cool," he's going to try it. He might not do it as a career or do it professionally, but if
Mm-hmm.
something sounds interesting to him, he's going to take that leap and have fun doing it. So one day I was sitting on the couch and he asked me, "What is something you've always wanted to do that you've never done?" And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss a beat. I was like, "I have always wanted to write children's books." And he said, "So why don't you?" And I was like, "Well, because you can't do that. Like, that's not a thing you can just like do." And he said, "Well, why not?" And I didn't have a good answer for him. And so that is what kicked off my entire career. Everything that you see today, I attribute to that one moment with my husband. And so what I say to anybody who might have a book in their heart or a dream is why not? Because the only
Mm.
person standing in your way at this point is probably you.
And that, my people, is the end of the show. No, why not? Thank you, Vicky, and let's do a round of applause for your husband too. Thank your husband for seeing the opportunity and then in fanning your flame to do it. So I hope that someone listening right now is also feeling very encouraged.
I hope so. I know that not everybody has someone like that in their house. And so whenever possible, I'm always encouraging authors to do that for one another, and to seek
Mm-hmm.
out the support system that will do that for you. Because, like anything, there's ups and downs. Life will throw you curveballs, and
Mm-hmm.
you never quite know what to expect. Sometimes things don't turn out the way you expect, they turn out better. And sometimes they look a lot more like a squiggly line than you originally thought they might. But I
Mm-hmm.
do believe that at the end of the day, it's not a competition and there's plenty of space. You just have to be yourself and find the people that will help you continue to do so even on those hardest days.
Mm. And that's what you have as well in your program, in your courses, in your mentoring. That's how we tie together. You have the tools and the support system all in one at athomeauthor.com. Vicky, is there any other way that people can connect with you after this interview if they're interested?
Absolutely. I'm pretty easy to find. Um, Vicky Weber Books is my handle for most social media platforms, but also YouTube is a great place to start. Got a lot of content up there, a lot of good things. And so if you need anything, reach out on one of those platforms. I'm not hard to hunt down.
And what about any of your books? How can they get their hands on some of your books?
Yeah, all my books are available wherever books are sold. So, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local bookstore. If it's not at your local library, you can request it at your local library. pretty much anywhere that you purchase your own books, you'll be able to find mine.
Excellent. Yes, I definitely wanted people to be able to find your books if they needed it. Well, Vicky, thank you for joining us today and sharing another success story with Systeme.io.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. That's another story with Systeme.io. Hopefully, you've been encouraged. And until next time, keep creating.